The galaxy was wide and full of shining worlds, but not every world welcomed the weak. For the Thalorians, a once proud people, the stars had turned cold. They were a gentle race, known for their tall, silver-blue forms and soft voices. For centuries, they had served as healers, artists, and diplomats in the Galactic Council. They brought songs to worlds without music and medicines to colonies that suffered. They were never warriors, never conquerors. They had no great fleets of warships or armies. They trusted the Council to protect them, to value them. But trust had been a mistake. The whispers began quietly at first. Other races said the Thalorians carried a hidden sickness in their genes, a flaw that could spread if they mingled too freely with others. At first it was dismissed as a rumor, a cruel joke. But politicians found it useful. Blame was easy. Fear was easy. When resources grew tight and disputes arose, someone had to be the scapegoat. The Council voted, and the Thalorians were cast out. Their colonies were stripped from them. Their trade rights were cancelled. Their fleets, what little they had, were seized. All that remained were a scattering of refugee ships crowded with the old, the young, and the desperate. Now they drifted. The refugee fleet moved between stars like ghosts. They sent pleas for sanctuary to dozens of worlds, but every time the answer was the same: no. Some responses came with sympathy, others with cold silence. A few came with threats. On the flagship Solari's Grace, Highkeeper Raylith stood in the dim light of the command chamber, looking at the hollow faces of his people. He had been chosen as their leader not because he was strong, but because he had always been calm, always steady. But now even his calm voice could not hide the despair in his heart. Another rejection, reported the communications officer, a young woman named Serena. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. The Valen Republic refuses us entry. They say our presence would destabilize their population. Raylith closed his eyes. That makes 19. The room was silent. 19 requests. 19 doors slammed shut. How long can we last? Asked another officer. His voice trembled. Our supplies are thinning. We have children, Keeper. They cannot eat promises. Raylith turned to the great viewing window. Beyond, the stars stretched like endless diamonds, beautiful and cruel. We will last, he said softly. Because we must. But inside he wondered how much longer hope could burn before it went out. Weeks passed. The ships limped from system to system. Their engines ached. Their hulls cracked. People began to whisper that perhaps it would be better to scatter, to hide among other worlds as shadows, instead of clinging together like prey waiting for the end. Then, one day something changed. Keeper, Serena cried, her voice sharp with shock. I am detecting a transmission. Not directed at us, but wideband. A human signal. The word froze the chamber. Humans. Deathworlders. Every species in the galaxy knew of them, though few had met them. They were newcomers compared to the ancient empires, but they came from a planet that was whispered about with awe and fear. A world of burning deserts, crushing oceans, wild beasts with claws and venom. A world where survival was constant war against nature itself. Humans, it was said, were forged in that fire. Their bodies were tough, their minds unpredictable. They thrived where others perished. They fought wars with a savagery that frightened even predator species. And now, the Thalorian fleet had stumbled across their signal. Play it, Raylith ordered. The transmission crackled through the speakers, carrying strange but rich tones. It was a human news broadcast bouncing across local space. Images flickered onto the screen. Pictures of crowded cities under blue skies, of machines flying through air, of people laughing, working, building. The Thalorians stared in silence. To them it was alien and yet oddly familiar. They saw families holding children. They saw old ones being cared for. They saw hands reaching out to each other, not with claws, but with warmth. Humans, whispered Serena. Keeper, could we ask them? Raylith felt the weight of the suggestion. The Galactic Council had marked humans as dangerous. Many feared their rise. To go to them was to risk everything. But then he thought of the children starving in the refugee holds, of the mothers who sang lullabies to keep despair away, of the eyes that looked to him for hope. Set a course, he said at last, toward Earth. The journey was long. Days blurred into nights, though in space such words meant little. Fear spread through the fleet. What if the humans destroyed them? What if they enslaved them? But beneath the fear was something else. A tiny spark of hope. At last the blue planet came into view. It hung in the void like a jewel, white clouds swirling over oceans and green lands. On the flagship, the crew gathered at the windows, breath caught in their throats. "It is beautiful," Serena whispered. Rayleigh could not deny it. A death world, yes, but alive. So alive. "Open hailing frequencies," he ordered. His heart pounded as he spoke into the void. "This is Keeper Rayleigh of the Thalorian people. We come in peace. We come in need. We beg sanctuary." For long minutes there was no answer. Silence crushed them. Rayleigh felt despair rising like a tide. Perhaps the humans would ignore them as all others had. Perhaps they would drive them away. Then a voice came. Strong, clear, human. "This is Earth Command. Your signal is received. Thalorian fleet, you are not forgotten here. Please, stand by." The chamber erupted in gasps. Serena covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time in months, the Thalorians had not been rejected. Rayleigh bowed his head, whispering a prayer of thanks. But he also knew this was only the beginning. Earth was cautious. Human leaders gathered in their halls of government. Some argued that the Thalorians were a risk, that sheltering them could bring war with the Council. Others said resources must be kept for their own people. But the common humans, the ordinary citizens, saw the faces of the refugees on their screens, thin, weary, desperate, and they spoke with one voice. Help them. So the humans did not fire weapons. They did not turn the Thalorians away. They sent ships, medical vessels, supply carriers, escorts, to guide the refugees down to safe harbors. For the Thalorians, it was like stepping into a dream. When the first refugees landed, they were greeted not with fear but with blankets and food. Human children offered toys. Human doctors rushed to heal the sick. Soldiers clad in armor stood guard not to threaten but to protect. One old Thalorian wept openly as a human woman placed her coat over his shoulders. "Why?" he asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you help us when no one else would?" The woman only smiled. "Because you needed it." Rayleigh stood among his people, watching them find warmth for the first time in so long. He looked at the humans, so strange, so feared, yet so full of fierce kindness. The Thalorian fleet trembled as it entered Earth's orbit, a shimmering cluster of silver-blue ships against the deep black of space. From the bridge of Solari's Grace, High Keeper Rayleigh watched the human ships approach with awe and caution. They were unlike any fleet he had seen, sleek, strong, and oddly unarmed in appearance. Aboard the lead human vessel, Captain Maria Chen observed the Thalorian ships. She had read the Council's warnings. Deathworlders are unpredictable. Approach with caution. Yet looking at the exiled fleet now, she saw no aggression, only desperation. Families crowded the observation decks. Children pressed their hands against glass, staring at the green and blue planet below. "They are refugees, not raiders," Chen said quietly. "Prepare the landing sequence. Welcome them." As the first Thalorian ships descended into the upper atmosphere, the humans held their breath. The aliens had no experience with planets as harsh as Earth, and every gust of wind or heat wave could be overwhelming. For centuries, humans had adapted to a planet that was alive with dangers. Storms, predators, earthquakes, oceans that could swallow cities. They had thrived where others might have perished. Rayleigh felt the weight of each human ship guiding them safely. Each ship radiated calm. Each voice over the comms was steady, assuring. "Keep your shields light," Chen instructed her crew. "We are not here to intimidate. We are here to help." The Thalorians landed in a sprawling valley near the coast. The land was lush and green, with rivers winding like silver threads. Children leaped from the ships but stumbled over roots and uneven ground. Some clutched their parents, terrified of the strange world beneath their feet. A human team waited for them, clad in light armor and carrying medical kits and supplies. One human stepped forward, a young officer named Daniel Ortiz. His eyes, brown and warm, scanned the Thalorians. "Welcome," Ortiz said. "You are safe here." Rayleigh inclined his head. We do not know if we are allowed to be here. Every other world has cast us out." Ortiz shook his head gently. "Not here. Earth does not cast out the weak. We protect them." The Thalorians were cautious. They had heard stories of humans, deathworlders, dangerous, unpredictable. Yet as Ortiz led them down the valley, they saw the truth of these people. Humans worked together to build temporary shelters for the refugees. Doctors and nurses tended to the sick. Children laughed as they were offered toys and blankets. Rayleigh noticed the humans' resilience. A windstorm suddenly blew across the valley, strong enough to knock over light shelters. The human team quickly adjusted, securing tents, guiding frightened children to safety. One Thalorian child, no older than 6, looked up at the humans and smiled. "They do not fear us," he said. "No," Raylith replied softly. "They fear nothing but harm itself." At the central camp, Thalorians gathered to rest. The humans provided food that the exiles had not tasted in months: warm bread, sweet fruits, and fresh water. They marveled at the taste, simple but rich. Raylith sat beside Serena. "They do not see us as dangerous," she said. "They do not judge us by what the galaxy says. They only see what is here now." Raylith nodded. "And yet we are not safe. The council will notice. The bounty hunters will come. They will not forgive us for finding refuge." Serena's eyes widened. "Do you think they will attack?" Raylith sighed. "Perhaps. But if they do, humans will fight. And when humans fight for the helpless, no enemy is too strong." The first night on Earth was strange for the Thalorians. The sky was alive with colors, not just stars, but lights of cities far away. They had never seen a world so wild yet so full of life. Humans told stories of storms and predators, of earthquakes and floods, and how they had survived it all. A group of young Thalorians sat around a small fire, listening to human stories. They were enchanted by tales of courage and endurance. "We do not have to hide," one Thalorian whispered. "We can be ourselves." Raylith smiled faintly. "Yes, for the first time in a long while. We do not have to fear every world we touch. But peace is rarely permanent." 3 days after landing, scout ships detected a small band of Galactic Council vessels approaching Earth. The humans intercepted the message. Bounty hunters had been dispatched to capture or destroy the Thalorians. Raylith felt a chill. "We are marked. The galaxy does not forgive our presence here." Chen gathered her officers. "We do not attack unless necessary," she said. "We only protect. Earth does not surrender the innocent." Raylith was astonished. "You would fight an entire fleet for us?" Chen's eyes were steady. "If it comes to it. Humans fight for family, for friends, for those who cannot defend themselves, and you are under our protection." For the Thalorians, it was almost unimaginable. Every other world had abandoned them. Every other fleet had been silent or hostile. And yet here were humans willing to risk war to shield them. The bounty hunters arrived quietly, cloaked and sleek, expecting to intimidate. They had never met humans before. When they saw the human ships deploy defensive formations, they hesitated. Humans did not act like other races. Their movements were unpredictable yet precise. Their weapons were deadly, but their purpose was clear: protect, not destroy. Raylith watched as a small squadron of humans maneuvered to block the hunter's path. The Thalorians had never seen courage like it. They had never seen a race fight for someone else's life without expecting gain, without demanding loyalty in return. A young Thalorian engineer, watching the maneuvers from the observation deck, whispered, "They are monsters, yes, but different. They are something else, something stronger than fear." Raylith nodded. "They are life itself, forged in fire. That is what makes them dangerous to the galaxy, but also what makes them our hope." Over the next week, humans worked tirelessly to integrate the Thalorians. They taught them how to adapt to Earth's climates, how to forage safely, how to survive storms and dangerous wildlife. They even shared technology, allowing the refugees to repair their own ships. The Thalorians marveled at the humans' ingenuity. They had never encountered a race that could survive so much and yet remain kind. One evening, as Raylith watched children play in a human-built garden, he realized something profound. The galaxy had cast them out, labeling them weak and dangerous. But here, on this harsh, unpredictable world, they were safe. Here their weakness was met with strength, not cruelty. He spoke softly to Serena. "Perhaps we were wrong to fear the Death Worlders." Serena smiled. "Perhaps the galaxy was wrong. Perhaps we have found what we have been searching for all this time." The first light of dawn painted Earth's valley with gold, but the calm was only a fragile illusion. Far above in orbit, the sleek black shapes of Galactic Council bounty hunters moved like shadows. Their ships were built for speed and destruction, each carrying weapons capable of vaporizing entire cities. They had come to retrieve or destroy the Thalorians. Raylith stood on the observation deck of Solari's Grace, watching the enemy approach. His people were unarmed and vulnerable on the ground. Fear gripped his chest, but he kept it hidden. The humans were ready, he knew, but even their courage could be tested. Captain Maria Chen watched the approaching ships from the bridge of her flagship. Her jaw was tight. "We expected this," she said. "Prepare defensive formations and ensure civilians are secure. This is not just about combat. This is about protecting the innocent." Her officers nodded. The humans moved like a single organism, smoothly, efficiently. They were a predator species in their own right, but one that chose when and how to strike. On the ground, the Thalorians watched with awe and fear as humans deployed barricades, energy shields, and defensive drones. Children were moved to underground shelters. The sick and elderly were placed in protected zones, cared for by doctors who refused to leave even when alarms sounded. "Why do they care so much?" whispered a young Thalorian, clutching his mother's hand. No other world cared. Raylith knelt beside the child. "Because they are human," he said softly. "And humans. Protect those who cannot protect themselves." Even as he spoke, the first shots of energy weapons lit the skies. The bounty hunters fired warning blasts, not to destroy but to intimidate. They expected fear, submission, and obedience. They expected the Thalorians to panic and the humans to hesitate. They were wrong. Chen gave the order. "Hold fire unless fired upon. Let them come." The hunters advanced, sleek and deadly, thinking humans would scatter. Instead, humans moved with precision. Drones intercepted energy blasts, creating a shield above the valley. Human fighters swooped down from orbit, not to attack the Thalorians, but to block the enemy, drawing their fire and confusing their targeting systems. Raylith could hardly believe what he saw. Humans fought not with brute force alone, but with cunning. They used the terrain, the storms, even the very wildlife to their advantage. Hunters' ships were slowed by sudden turbulence over mountains and valleys. Electromagnetic pulses disrupted their targeting arrays. A young human pilot, barely older than a Thalorian teenager, called out over comms, "Target in the canyon. Hold them here. Keep civilians safe." Raylith's chest tightened with admiration. "They are incredible," he whispered. Serena nodded. "And terrifying. Not because they are cruel, but because they are willing to risk everything for us." The first real engagement began near the river. The hunter scouts had tried to land and capture a Thalorian transport. Humans intercepted them, using high-speed vehicles and grappling drones to block their path. Energy blasts struck the ground, sending dust and rocks flying. Yet the human squads moved with fluid coordination, never leaving a Thalorian behind. Raylith felt a mixture of fear and pride. These humans, so small in number, could hold back such overwhelming power, and they did so with a smile, with confidence, with a fierceness that came from generations surviving a world that would kill anything weaker than itself. One human soldier shouted, "Fall back to the ridge! Protect the civilians!" They moved like lightning, covering every Thalorian with shields and fire. The hunters tried to break their formation, but the humans adapted instantly. Raylith had never seen such ingenuity. Every time a hunter tried to flank, another human countered. Every time a weapon locked onto a target, humans sabotaged it or redirected it. And all the while, the Thalorians watched in disbelief. By nightfall, the battle had spread across the valley. Hunters were downed, their ships disabled or destroyed. Humans suffered losses, yes, but their efficiency minimized casualties. Every fallen human was honored. Every civilian was protected. Raylith walked among his people, seeing the awe in their eyes. "They are not just warriors," he said. "They are something more. They fight for more than themselves. They fight for life itself." Serena nodded, her eyes wide. "We have never seen anything like this. Not in our history. Not in any galaxy we have known." Children peeked out from shelters, whispering excitedly. They watched humans build barricades even in the chaos of battle. They watched pilots swoop down to block the hunters, risking their own lives. One small Thalorian boy tugged at Raylith's sleeve. "They are like heroes," he said. Raylith smiled faintly. "Yes, little one. Heroes of their own kind, and now, heroes of ours." The hunters, frustrated and underestimating the humans, attempted a retreat, but the humans were relentless. They did not pursue recklessly. They did not strike out of vengeance. Instead, they carefully cut off escape routes, disable enemy ships one by one, forcing surrender or retreat. One Thalorian engineer, Saren, watched a human squad set a trap for retreating hunters. "They are Animals, he said, voice trembling. But not like predators. They are controlled, focused, unstoppable. Raylith placed a hand on his shoulder. They are Deathworlders, Saren, forged on a planet that refuses weakness, and now they are our shield. By the end of the day, the hunters were forced to retreat entirely. The humans had not only protected the Thalorians, but had sent a clear message to the galaxy. Earth does not surrender the helpless. That evening, in the quiet after the battle, the Thalorians gathered. They tended the wounded, repaired their damaged vessels, and shared food. Raylith stood on the hill overlooking the valley, watching humans distribute supplies to the Thalorian children. They could have left us, he murmured. They could have let us be destroyed. And yet they did this, for us. Serena leaned beside him. They fight for the weak because it is who they are. Not because they must, but because they cannot do otherwise. Raylith shook his head. The galaxy is wrong. They are not monsters. They are hope. At that moment, a young human officer approached, handing Raylith a small device. You should see this, she said. We captured their communications. The council is talking about escalating. They're calling this insubordination. They think they can intimidate Earth into surrendering you. Raylith's eyes narrowed. Then we must prepare. They will not stop until they believe the galaxy can control us, or destroy us. Chen, standing nearby, placed a reassuring hand on Raylith's shoulder. We will not surrender. We will protect you. Every single one of you. And for the first time in months, the Thalorians truly believed it. Humanity was unlike any other race they had encountered. Fierce, unpredictable, terrifying when needed, and yet capable of compassion that the galaxy itself could not imagine. That night, as the stars sparkled above, Raylith walked among the Thalorians. Children laughed despite the day's events. Families shared stories. And somewhere deep in their hearts, all of them knew that Earth and its humans were more than a refuge. They were a promise that the galaxy could not take everything. A promise that even the cast out could find a home. A promise that humanity, fierce and strange, could stand as shield and sword for the helpless. The hunters would return. The council would not forget. But for now, the Thalorians slept safely, and for the first time in a long time, hope was not just a word. It was real. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council would not forgive Earth for harboring the Thalorians. Reports of the humans' ferocity had already begun to spread through the stars. Some saw Earth as a threat. Others whispered in awe. On Earth, Captain Maria Chen stood on the ridge overlooking the valley. Below her, humans and Thalorians worked together to repair damage from the first skirmish. Families rebuilt their temporary shelters. Engineers repaired drones, ships, and energy barriers. Children, their laughter ringing through the air, played among the ruins. Raylith walked beside her. The bounty hunters will return, he said. Soon the council will send a larger force. Perhaps a fleet capable of destroying us. Chen's expression was steady. Then we prepare. Not just to survive, but to fight smart. They expect fear. They expect hesitation. They will not get it from humans or Thalorians. Raylith shook his head in disbelief. You would risk everything for us. Again? Chen smiled faintly. Not just for you. For life itself. For those who cannot defend themselves. The humans began training the Thalorians. It was not traditional combat, for the aliens were not warriors. Instead, they learned survival techniques, emergency coordination, and even simple defensive maneuvers. Humans taught them how to move silently, how to build traps from natural terrain, and how to communicate over long distances using signals that the council could not intercept. Raylith watched as his people adapted quickly. They were intelligent, resourceful, and eager to learn. Children practiced basic evasive drills. Adults learned to navigate rugged terrain and set up protective perimeters. The Thalorians began to realize that Earth was not just a sanctuary, it was a school. Serena approached Raylith with a message. Captain Chen wants to meet with the fleet commanders tonight. There is a plan. At the council tent, human officers and Thalorian leaders gathered around a large digital map of the valley and surrounding areas. Chen tapped a point on the screen. This, she said, is where we expect the next council fleet to arrive. It is their fastest route, but also their most exposed. We will not face them head-on. Instead, we use the terrain. We use their arrogance against them. Raylith studied the map. You plan to ambush them? Chen shook her head. Not an ambush in the usual sense. We will make them think the valley is defenseless. Then we draw them into traps, defensive drones, and natural obstacles. Every step will cost them. Every misstep will be theirs, not ours. And if they underestimate the Thalorians, they will find out that even the exiled can fight. Rayleith's jaw tightened. It is dangerous, Chen nodded. Yes, someone may have to make the ultimate sacrifice, but it will not be in vain. We will not lose without purpose, a murmur ran through the room. The Thalorians were not used to such boldness. They had always been protected or abandoned. Now humans spoke openly of sacrifice as a weapon, a strategy. Over the next days, preparations were relentless. Humans and Thalorians worked side by side. Drones were positioned along valleys and ridges. Shields were tested. Communication lines were encrypted and rehearsed. Rayleith spent long hours speaking to his people, instilling courage. We do not fight because we want war, he told them. We fight because life deserves protection. Humans have given us a chance. We cannot waste it, Serena added quietly. And they fight for us without expecting anything in return. That is something even we have never seen before. Then the message came. The Council fleet was arriving sooner than expected. Hundreds of ships, black and massive, filled the distant stars. The humans observed silently, calculating, adapting. They had no illusions about the scale of the threat, but their confidence did not waver. Rayleith felt a weight in his chest. If they come, if they attack, many will die. Chen placed a hand on his shoulder. Yes, but not today. Not if we do this right. And remember, you are not alone. The first skirmish began with scouts of the Council fleet probing Earth's defenses. Human drones intercepted them with precision, disabling engines and forcing retreats. Then the main fleet arrived. Their energy beams lit up the sky like lightning, but the humans were ready. Using the terrain as a weapon, they funneled enemy ships into narrow canyons where drones, missiles, and hidden defenses could strike efficiently. Humans on the ground used sensor-guided traps, forcing enemy vessels into collisions and confusion. Rayleith watched in awe as Thalorians coordinated with humans, signaling hidden pathways and emergency routes. Even untrained civilians assisted in small ways, warning of enemy movements, reinforcing barriers, or delivering supplies. The Council fleet underestimated Earth. They expected chaos and panic. Instead, they found strategy, resilience, and life itself defending the valley. Amid the chaos, Captain Chen made a critical decision. She selected a team to draw the largest portion of the Council fleet into a trap. Among them was a veteran pilot, Lieutenant Raj Malik, and a Thalorian volunteer, Saren, who insisted on participating. Rayleith protested. They are too inexperienced. It is suicidal. Chen shook her head. They know the risk. They chose this, and their sacrifice will give us the advantage we need. The team launched in sleek fighters, baiting the Council ships into a narrow canyon filled with hidden drones and mines. Energy beams lit the sky. Explosions shook the ground. But the team held their course, forcing the Council fleet exactly where humans had planned. From the ridge, Rayleith watched as the trap unfolded perfectly. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and drones struck with deadly efficiency. The Council forces were stunned. They had never faced an enemy that used cunning over sheer numbers. Hours later, as the dust settled, the humans and Thalorians regrouped. Many had been injured, but losses were minimized thanks to careful planning and teamwork. The Council fleet had retreated, battered and humiliated. Rayleith walked among his people, pride swelling in his chest. We did not just survive, he said. We made them fear what they cannot understand. We showed the galaxy that even the exiled have strength. Serena approached him, eyes shining. And it was humans who showed us how. Rayleith nodded slowly. They are more than warriors. They are guardians, and now they are ours. That night the valley was quiet. Fires burned low. Children slept peacefully. Humans and Thalorians shared stories and laughter. Rayleith looked up at the stars, thinking of the Council fleet retreating into the void. We are not safe yet, he said quietly. The galaxy will not forgive this. They will return, stronger, smarter, angrier. Chen stood beside him, her expression calm but resolute. Let them come. We will be ready. Humans and Thalorians together. No one survives alone, but together, we can face anything, Rayleith smiled faintly. Then perhaps, hope is not a dream. Perhaps it is real. Serena placed a hand on his arm. and we will protect it. For all our people. In that moment, the Thalorians understood the depth of humanity's courage. They had witnessed sacrifice, ingenuity, and an unwavering willingness to protect those who could not defend themselves. For the first time, they felt not just safe, but part of something greater. The valley, battered and scarred from battle, was alive with hope. And somewhere deep in their hearts, every Thalorian knew that Earth and humanity was more than a refuge. It was a home worth fighting for. Outside the valley, stars twinkled, but darkness lingered. The council would return. Challenges would come. But humanity's presence and its willingness to stand for life itself had changed the game. The valley lay quiet before the storm. The Thalorians had rebuilt their temporary homes. Children laughed, played, and ran freely. Human engineers checked energy shields and drones one last time. The humans had taught the Thalorians to survive, but today, they would fight together. High Keeper Raylith stood atop a ridge, watching the horizon. Beyond the mountains, dark shadows of the Galactic Council fleet loomed. Hundreds of ships, sleek and deadly, filled the sky. Their intent was clear. Earth had sheltered the exiles, and now the Council wanted retribution. Raylith's chest tightened. "This is the moment," he murmured. "The moment we either survive or fall." Beside him, Captain Maria Chen's eyes scanned the valley. Her expression was calm but fierce. "We will survive," she said. "We are not just humans and Thalorians. We are life itself, and life does not surrender." The Council fleet advanced slowly, expecting fear. They expected humans to hesitate. They expected the Thalorians to beg for mercy, but instead Earth was alive with motion. Humans moved to their positions with fluid coordination. Thalorians followed their lead, carrying emergency supplies, setting barriers, and preparing communications. Raylith observed the courage of his people. Even those who had never held a weapon before were ready to protect their friends and neighbors. Humans had taught them more than combat. They had taught them confidence, strategy, and unity. Chen addressed her team over the comms. "Remember precision, patience, and protection. Every step counts. No one is left behind." The first exchange was sudden. The Council sent a wave of assault ships to test Earth's defenses. Drones intercepted them, diverting energy blasts into empty space. Humans fired warning shots not to destroy but to corral the enemy where traps were set. Raylith watched as humans moved like living weapons. Their tactics were unlike anything he had seen. One group feigned retreat, drawing a squadron of Council fighters into a canyon lined with automated mines. Explosions erupted, sending enemy ships spinning into debris. Thalorians gasped. "They are unstoppable," whispered Serena. Raylith nodded. "No, not unstoppable. They are relentless. They fight for life. That is why they cannot be defeated easily." On the ground, human and Thalorian teams worked together to protect civilians. Barricades were reinforced. Emergency shelters were stocked. Children were moved to secure zones under human supervision. Even the oldest Thalorians helped, carrying supplies or guiding the frightened to safety. A young Thalorian girl looked up at Raylith. "Do you think we will survive?" Raylith smiled faintly. "Not alone, but together, we have a chance. And when humans fight beside us, we can survive anything." Hours into the battle, the main fleet reached the valley. Energy beams lit the sky like lightning. Explosions shook the ground. Yet the humans did not panic. Their coordination was flawless. Drones intercepted attacks, soldiers guided civilians, and pilots used the terrain to their advantage. Chen led a daring maneuver. She took a small team to strike the Council command ship. Her squadron flew through narrow canyons, avoiding detection, while remotely triggering traps to disable the fleet's communications. Raylith watched from the ridge, heart pounding. The humans were risking everything, yet they moved with calm precision. Each strike, each calculated risk was designed to protect the vulnerable. One Thalorian Saren spoke quietly, voice trembling. "They fight for us, even when we cannot fight back. Even when they could leave and be safe." Raylith's eyes narrowed. "That is what makes them terrifying to the galaxy. Not because they destroy, but because they protect." The Council fleet was thrown into chaos. Their numbers were large but disorganized. Their ships collided, systems failed, and communication was lost. Human ingenuity and the Thalorians' knowledge of their environment turned the tide. One by one, enemy ships retreated or were neutralized. Raylith walked among the Thalorians, marveling at the teamwork. Even those who had been timid before now moved with confidence. They had learned from humans not just to survive but to fight for what was right. At one point, a young human soldier, barely older than some of the Thalorian children, risked his life to save a wounded alien. He ignored the enemy fire, pulling the Thalorian to safety behind a shield. Raylath's heart clenched. This was courage beyond comprehension. Finally, after hours of battle, the last council ship retreated. The sky cleared, leaving only stars and the soft glow of Earth below. The valley was scarred, but intact. No human or Thalorian civilian had died, a testament to planning, strategy, and sheer courage. Raylath stepped forward, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "We are alive. Today we have survived against impossible odds. And it is because humans chose to stand with us." Cheering erupted from both humans and Thalorians. Children laughed, adults hugged, and even the oldest among them wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time in months, there was joy untainted by fear. Chen approached Raylath, smiling. "The Council will not forget this," she said. "But we do not fight for their approval. We fight for those who need protection." Raylath bowed his head. "You have given my people something no other race ever could: hope, safety, and trust." Days later, the Thalorians formally accepted Earth as their sanctuary. A ceremony was held in the valley, humans and Thalorians standing side by side. Children sang songs of thanks, adults spoke words of admiration, and even the most reserved humans shared stories of courage and survival. Raylath addressed the gathering. "The galaxy cast us out. Many worlds refused to shelter us. But humanity welcomed us. They gave us home, safety, and courage when we had none. We are forever in their debt." Chen stepped forward. "You are not in our debt. You are part of this planet now. Together, humans and Thalorians will build a future, one where the weak are not abandoned, one where courage and compassion define us." The crowd erupted into applause. Thalorians hugged humans. Children ran freely across the valley. The scars of battle were still visible, but hope burned brighter than ever. In the following weeks, Earth became a beacon of hope in the galaxy. News of the humans' courage spread. Other races began to question the Council's actions. Whispers of admiration and fear circulated. These humans, they protect those the galaxy rejects. They do not fear the impossible. They fight for life itself. Raylath stood on the ridge one evening, watching the sun set over the valley. The Thalorians were learning, thriving, and smiling. Children played by the river, their laughter echoing in the hills. Humans patrolled the perimeter, always vigilant, always protective. Serena joined him, quiet for a moment. "Do you think the galaxy will ever accept us?" she asked. Raylath smiled softly. "Perhaps not. But we do not need their acceptance. We have humanity. And as long as they stand with us, no one can cast us out again." One evening, a small Thalorian child tugged at a human soldier's sleeve. "Why did you help us?" he asked, wide-eyed. The soldier knelt, meeting the child's gaze. "Because that's what it means to be human. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We protect life no matter where it comes from, and we never abandon those in need." The child nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Then we are safe?" The soldier smiled. "Yes, you are safe, and you always will be." As stars shone above the valley, a new chapter began. The Thalorians were no longer exiles. They were part of Earth. They were part of humanity's shield, a symbol of hope for all who had been abandoned. The Galactic Council could threaten, warn, or scold. It could send fleets or spies. But one truth remained clear across the galaxy. Humanity did not abandon the helpless. And those who stood with humanity could never be alone again. A new dawn had risen. The valley, scarred by battle, was alive with hope. And the galaxy, whether it knew it yet or not, had witnessed something extraordinary. The cast-out had found home. And humanity had proven once again why they were feared, admired, and unforgettable.